Jake, it's great to see you again. How was the vacation with the kids? I'm glad to hear it. So, just to jump right into things, I sent you a copy of the financial plan. Have you had a chance to look at it yet? Glad to hear it. So, before we go through it page by page, and we'll make sure to cover everything, were there any major sections you guys had a lot of questions on? You want to talk about Mary's education? Okay. Well, it sounds like the question is, how did we get to that roughly 187,000? You think that number seems a little low for college education? Well, let's talk about it step through step, how we got to that number. So what I did was started with the roughly $40,000 today that it costs to go to a private university like your current children are already going to. And I added inflation to that all the way until Mary's 19, which would be her freshman year, and then continued to add inflation throughout her college. Now, just based on that, in her freshman year, we need about $625,000. That's probably the number you were expecting. Okay. Well, then what we did was I took that number and figured out, based on investment returns over the next few years, or the next 14 years, how much we would need today to invest to have that much money in the future. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So that's how I came up with that number. And that number, again, is about $187,000 we would need to invest today to have that money in the future. For the investment recommendations, Mark, I know you were asking about using growth stocks. So let's talk about that for a second. Sometimes growth stocks outperform the general economy, but then there are other times that they don't. I don't feel we need to take on that much extra risk just to get that return. So instead of using growth stocks, what I've laid out for you here is that we should use low-cost index funds instead, stock index funds. So they give us a lot of diversification. They get us pretty close to what the actual market is returning because they have very low fees without making us too susceptible just to one piece of the market. How does that sound? Okay. So we don't want to be that aggressive forever. When we have a portfolio that's 100% stocks, it can be quite volatile, which I'm okay with now because Mary's still pretty far away from college. So if we had a major market downturn now, we've still got over 10 years to recover. But I don't want to stay that aggressive forever because the last thing we want to see happen is to save up all this money and then have the market crash as soon as Mary starts college and then not have the money. So as I've laid out for you in the plan, I would like to see the account become more conservative over time so that when Mary's about to when she's about to go to school, we'll actually have a portfolio that's primarily bonds with some stocks and then some cash. And the goal of that portfolio isn't going to be amazing returns, but it should be, one, a lot less volatile, and my hope is it'll still be able to keep up with inflation. How do you guys feel about that? Okay, perfect. And when it comes to investing that money, we want to take advantage of any tax benefits that we can. So I'm looking to actually put the money in a 529 college savings plan. The advantage of a 529 is the money can grow within the account tax-free as long as you use it for qualified education expenses, which covers more than just tuition. You can also use it for room and board, books, things of that sort. So it's quite expansive. And again, as long as you're using it for those qualified education expenses, Mary can use that for her college. Now, one of the other advantages of a 529 is that you can take advantage of multiple gift taxes exclusions. So each of you have a gift tax exclusion each year of $14,000. We can combine that so we have $28,000. And with a 529, we can actually combine 5 years worth of those exclusions together and use them all at once. So we can actually put $140,000 into a 529 today for Mary's education about 14 years from now. And that money will grow tax-free that entire time as long as you use it for qualified education expenses. Now, that still leaves roughly another $47,000. So what we would do with that is just put it into a joint brokerage account. And then after we've used up those first 5 years worth of exclusions, so now we're looking at year 6, we can start moving that money into the 529 as well between now and when Mary actually goes to school. Another advantage of the 529 is Mary's a smart girl. If she gets a lot of scholarships, we can actually change the beneficiary to someone else, maybe even Beverly's children. How does that all sound to you? All right, perfect. The other thing I wanted to add in, another advantage of that 529 account is any money you put in there, you still have control over in the aspect that you can change the beneficiary to someone else, but that money's not counted in your estate. Okay, so what questions do you guys have on anything to do with Mary's college education? Well, perfect. So now we'll talk about selling the business.